In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at just the basics of iBooks Author. And hopefully in the future, I'll have some other videos that will show some more advanced features. But my goal in this presentation is just to get you started so that you can jump in and start building books with iBooks Author. And that really is what iBooks Author is all about. Notice that here on the apple.com website, they have a page dedicated specifically to iBooks Author. And iBooks Author has been made a free tool. Apple offers it for free, and anyone with the Mac can download it and use it. Now, there are some basic requirements that you'll need on the Mac for it to work properly and to run. We'll look at those in just a minute. As you can see, the purpose of iBooks Author is to help you create and publish amazing books for iPad and Mac. But you can actually use it for more than that. You can publish your books as PDFs, and there's some other features as well. So really, your books could be used on many other devices, not just iPad and Mac. So let's take a look here on their website. I'm just going to go down and I'll click Download iBooks Author free from the Mac Apple Store. Now that takes you here to this page that talks about the different specifications and requirements if you're going to be using iBooks Author on your Mac. Notice it says compatibility OS 10.9 or later. Now this might look to you like the Apple iPad App Store, but this is actually just for the Mac App Store. Okay, so I could click here to open it up in the Mac App Store, and I will do that. If you don't want to go through each of those steps I just showed, if you have a Mac, you could just go down and find your symbol that looks like this for App Store, click it, it'll open up, and then you can do a search for iBooks Author. All right, so this is the store from which I get this free software, iBooks Author, and I can just click here where it says open. For you, it'll probably say free or download, something like that, but you just click it and it will install on your device. Now, for this to work exactly as it's meant to work, you need to have Yosemite. Like I said on the previous screen, version 10.9 or later is required. But I found that it didn't work exactly the way I wanted without 10.10.4. So my best advice for you is, if you really want to use this, you need to update to the most recent version of OS 10. And if you're going to use it with an iPad as well, you should update your iPad as well. So I've already downloaded and installed this, so I'm going to close out of the App Store, and I'm just going to click here on Spotlight, and I'll type in iBooks Author and load it up. All right, so here it is. And it automatically, by default, it took me to the template chooser. So these are some templates, some layouts for books that I can just click to use, and it saves me a lot of time and effort having to think through exactly the way I want it to look. Notice that they do have some landscape views, they have some portrait views, EPUB style views. So I'm just going to go with this one here, contemporary in landscape. So I'm going to double click on that. I could have clicked it and then chosen choose, but anyway, double clicking works great. It opens up, and I want to start writing a book. Notice that the first thing you can do here in the upper left corner is book title, and this is really how I like to think about iBooks Author. Is I like to think about just what is here at the left, and that's how I work on a book. Okay, just by going through those, filling them out, working on them. And then also underneath that, okay, these are kind of like PowerPoint slides, if you want to think of it that way, or like Keynote slides, where you can work on each one at a time. But notice that they indent as you go along. We'll look at that more in just a minute. So first, book title. So let's say I want to write a book about nutrition. I'm just going to click to highlight the words book title, and I'll replace them with nutrition info. That's going to be the title of my new bestseller. Notice that there's also some text up here. I don't really need that for my book, but if you wanted to put text there, you could. And then down here, probably for the author, you could put in your name there as the author. So that is the cover, really, of my book. Next, if you look in the upper left corner, it says Intro Media. This is meant to be a movie or an image that will play kind of as a way of attracting attention or getting the reader excited about the book that they're about to read. And all you have to do is drag a movie, a video, or an image into this box. Now, I really like iBooks Author, but one of the things that kind of bothers me just a little bit is it doesn't seem to have an easy insert option, and maybe I'm just not seeing it properly, but I wish that here at the top it had insert image or insert video. Like I say, maybe I'm just missing it, but I don't see an option for insert image or video here. So instead, you're supposed to drag and drop, which is, very much a Mac kind of thing. But for me, with my limited screen size, it kind of bothers me to move over like this, move these things over. And then here on my desktop, I have a folder where I've put in some images. And I just need to get that out of the way. So here is a video that I would like to play. So I just click and drag to drop it into that placeholder, and it is now optimizing the movie so that it will be the intro media for my book. So that's really nice. I just wish that I could do all that without moving and sliding everything over and pushing things around. I wish I could click insert, but oh well, that's okay. Next up, I have a table of contents. I'm going to click on there, and you can see I've got chapter 1. It's untitled, and that's all I have. An untitled chapter 1. And then there's a glossary, and notice that you can click to add terms to your glossary. So I could put in nutrition, that's my term, and the definition is the study of nutrients in food. I've just made that up. So those are the 4 main things that you're going to be able to do that build the structure of the book, kind of. Okay? But you also work on this table of contents as you build out the chapters, the sections, and the pages that make up your book. All right, let's start with chapter 1. Here on chapter 1, I'm just going to click, and I could title chapter 1. I'll call this food. Kind of general, I guess, but it might be a good place to start. And it gives me some gibberish basically here that I can use to just kind of visualize what this chapter is going to look like. So I'm going to just double click on that, and then I can replace it with basically a description of chapter 1. A little teaser kind of, so that people are eager to read chapter 1. Or maybe it's a quote, something like that. Next, I click on section 1, and I'll title this. So I go in and title it. If you want, you can go in and say chapter highlights or section highlights, and you could list those out, and then just start typing up chapter 1, section 1. Okay, so I'm not going to make you watch while I write a book, but the idea here is you simply start building your book and writing it up. Now, you may have noticed when I deleted some of the text that was already there, it took away one of my pages. So I do want to show you how to add more pages and also more sections and more chapters to your book. The way you do that is up here in the upper left corner, you click on this plus sign and you can add pages. Okay, 1 column pages, 2, 3, blank column, or no column I should say. I'm going to go into 2 column, and it gave me a new page. I can click, and once I finish the page I'm currently on, it will move on to that next page. You can also add another section. So once this section is over, I'll just create another section. Okay, and notice how it indented differently. It pulled it to the left because it's a new section. This is section 1, this is section 2. And notice if you don't want it to be called section 2, you could just call it by a more specific name, but you can also put the name here as well. When you're done with section 2, and maybe you're done with chapter 1 completely, you just go up, add pages, click chapter. You've just created the beginnings of chapter 2. And so that's the process really of building out your book. Using sections if you want to, you don't have to. Using pages definitely, and then chapters. Now as you're doing your creating of your book, as you're writing and organizing what it will look like, you're probably going to want to change the background image. And similar to how I changed the intro media, which I never did show, notice that it finished loading it in. If I click play, it loads up my movie. Okay, and you'll get a sense of what that looks like better a little bit later. But you might decide to change some of the background images that come with the template. And just like I did with the video, what you have to do is pull your document to the side and find the image that you want to pull in, click and drag and drop it in the right place. Now sometimes if you drop it in a text box, it'll only put in a background in the text box. So be careful where you drop your image. Okay, so I just dropped it in a blank area the best I could, and it worked. Okay, so I've got that nice look there of some healthy foods. On this second page, the beginning of section 1, I'd like to do the same thing with the header. The galaxy looks nice there, but doesn't quite fit what I'm going for here. So I'm going to drag that same exact photo and drop it in, and you can see it creates a nice looking header. All right, and then I could do the same thing if I want with section 2, or I could get a different image for section 2. It really is up to me. Now I got all these images from Google Images using the search for images that are labeled for reuse. So if you want to know how to do that, I have a different video that shows how to find, using advanced search techniques, images that can be reused, and even reused for monetary gain if you'd like. So I've got some nice applicable pictures now in my book. And for most people, really, that's going to be all you really need to write a book. You can just go in, you can put in the pictures that you want, you can put in the text that you want, build out this ebook that you'll then be able to publish to the Apple iBooks store, and people will be able to get this book all over the world. But just for a glimpse into some more advanced features with iBooks Author, I want to point out toward the top of the screen, there's some nice things that you can add in to your pages. And I'm going to go to this page here in order to demonstrate some of these. You can click to add a text box. This is just a floating text box. It doesn't affect really the other text on your screen. So that can be nice, and it's just what you would expect with a typical text box. There's also a shapes menu up here that you can use to pull in arrows, which I think would be very useful in some cases in an ebook. You can put in some tables and charts, and I'm just going to gloss over those for now. And then notice this fifth button at the top. It's called Widgets, and this is kind of exciting. So even though I could save this for another video, I'd like to show it now. If you click on Widgets, these are some cool additional features that you can pull into an ebook that wouldn't work in a traditional book, a physical book. So for example, a gallery. You could click to add in a gallery widget that you could then place on the screen. Now notice this does take up space. So with the gallery, I'm trying to resize it and get it in a good spot. But anyway, now with the gallery there, notice here on the right you have this floating toolbar that you can use to add gallery media. So I could click add, and I could pull in some images from my computer. Okay, so there's one, but I could also go in and add another, and it creates a gallery that will be able to be clicked through. You'll be able to see the different pictures that are part of that gallery. So that's one of the widgets that you can add that's pretty cool. Media, you can add in a video that can be played right there inside the ebook, which of course isn't possible really with a traditional print book. So that's nice. You can pull in a keynote, and that's a very advanced technique that I'm not going to show in this video. But you could create a keynote that has some interactions, some clickable items and things like that, and then you could pull it in to your ebook. I do want to look at some of these others. One of the most powerful is HTML, but again, that's an advanced feature. So I'm going to skip that one for this presentation. But let's look at interactive image. If you click on interactive image, it brings in a little placeholder that you decide how to position that on the screen. And then I'm just using these sliders to position it the way I want it to be. Now there's no real image there yet, and you can probably guess how to get that image there. I'm just going to pull this to the side. I'm going to go to my folder where I have some images, and then I'm going to bring in the My Plate image, and I'll drop that right in the box and then exit out of that. Pull this back over, and you can see now that what makes this an interactive image is that you can put little targets basically on the screen, on the image, and then you can have a pop-up or a label really that explains more about that. And it will kind of zoom in on that portion of the screen at the appropriate time. Now the trick here is making sure that everything is readable and that you're going to be able to see what you want to see at the right time. And I'm still learning myself the best ways to do that. But I'm just going to go in and change what that's called. So I've typed in some information there, and I've moved this bubble so that it's going to be within view. Okay. Now I'll move this one over for vegetables. And again, I'll scoot this over, and then I'll rename that. Okay, now notice that when you click on, let's say, grains, it zooms in. If that's too far of a zoom, then adjust it and then click Set View. And it should remember that that's the view that you want for grains. Let's try it now with veggies. So I'm going to click on veggies, and that's pretty good, but I just want to scoot it over a little bit. I'll click Set View, and we'll see later if that worked. Hopefully it did. So I'm done with that interactive image. But the idea is pull in an image that's kind of big and then can be zoomed in on, and more information is available through these bubbles. All right, I need a new page because that's filling up with the widgets that I'm adding. So I just clicked over here onto page 5, and I'll click on widgets. And next up, I want to quickly show you that you can put in a scrolling sidebar, and this is really quite simple. It's just text that you can put in a lot of information. Maybe it's a side story that's related to what you're writing the book about. But see what happens? It can roll a big story into just a small little spot, and then this slide bar allows the viewer to access more information. So it's really nice. You can fit a lot of info in a small little box. Okay, so that is the scrolling sidebar widget. Next, there's a popover widget, and this one is really nice and quite easy. It just gives you a really small image that you can put where you want it to be. And then, just like before, we're going to scoot over. We're going to get images from the internet, download them to your computer or whatever you need to do. And then you are going to click and drag and drop that image where it needs to be. And then what you can do is double click on it if you have to. You might not have to. It might automatically do this, but I had to double click on it. And it says click to add text. You can also drag in images if you want. So I'll just put in the new My Plate. Okay, so now when this is a finished ebook, this will be clickable. If a reader taps on it, the pop-up will come up and it will say the new My Plate. Okay. So that's a simple but very useful and easy to use widget. Next up, for teachers and for students, I would say this is one of the most valuable and useful of the widgets for iBooks Author, and that is review. You can click to add in a review question for the reader. So you can type in, which of these is a fruit, for example, and put in the answers. Okay, so those are the answers I'm putting in, possible answers. Right now, this is marked as the correct answer. I want to switch that to be grapes. And this is all set now to be an interactive question that the viewer will be able to answer, and they'll get feedback. As they're reading the book, they'll be able to get feedback as to their understanding. Now I could go in and I could name this something else, question number 1, or Chapter 1 question review, or whatever you want to say. But I think it's good the way it is. Okay. Now I'm going to move that to the side just so that I don't have too many of the widgets kind of covering up each other. I want you to be able to see how they work when we look at the actual ebook. All right. So I'm going to go up and add yet another page toward the bottom. And looks like I didn't quite do that. But there's another page now that I can click to access. Okay, on this last page, I want to add one other kind of widget, and this is going to be a 3D image. So I'm going to click on 3D, and notice that there's an option that pops up in this floating toolbar. I can do free rotate if I want, or just horizontal and vertical. Or you can make it auto rotate when idle. And that's what I want to try. Now, the trick here is, where do I go to get 3D images? I don't know where to get 3D files. Okay, well, one of the best places to go for that is Google SketchUp. And I do have Google SketchUp on this computer. So I've just clicked to activate Google SketchUp, and I'm going to go up to the top where it says File, 3D Warehouse, Get Models. So if you go into SketchUp, even the free version, which is what I have, you can go to the 3D Warehouse and then do a search for whatever. Okay, and earlier I did a search for banana. I wanted a picture of a banana, but a 3D image. And this is the one I found that I'd like to use. I clicked Download Model. Okay. Now that loaded it in to my SketchUp file that I was working on. Let me pull that up Here it is. So there's the banana cluster that was pulled in. And then I just went up to File, Export 3D Model. Now it's important, if you want to be able to use these 3D images in your iBooks Author books, you're going to have to make sure it's downloading as a Collada file. That's the file type that it uses. So you can't use any of these others. It's got to be Collada. Click Export, and then you're ready to go. Okay, so I did all that earlier. I'm going to close out of SketchUp for now. And so earlier I did that, and here in my folder on my desktop, I'm just going to pull in the banana.dae, which is the Collada file type, and it brings in the 3D bananas. Of course, I can change the text that's on the screen that goes with it. All right, so this is an amazing book that I've put together. Let's take a look now at how do I know what the reader's experience is going to be. I feel like this is going well, but how do I know on an e-reader, especially on an iPad in iBooks, how is this going to look? How's it going to behave? Fortunately, iBooks Author comes with an option called Preview, and you can click on that, and it allows you to preview on a computer, or if I plug in my iPad, it will allow me to test it also on an iPad. Now, if these options are grayed out for you, in this case there's only one option, but again with my iPad plugged in there would be another. If they're grayed out, it just means that you either need to upgrade to Yosemite or a newer system, or you need to update your computer or iPad. And for me, I had to update both, really, in order for this to work fully the way I wanted it to. So I'm going to click Preview, and I'll just preview it on this computer. Now it says some instructions. You click OK, and then it's going to open up iBooks. So we have iBooks Author is what I've been showing you. That's for creating ebooks, or iBooks in this case. But then we also have iBooks. That's for reading the books. Now I'm going to jump back. It's skip to the end there, but I'm going to skip back to the beginning, and you can see this is page 1. Now when you test it out on an iPad, it's even a little better because you really get a feel for, okay, I'm turning a page here, okay? And you can use your fingers to do it instead of the mouse. But anyway, that's all right. So I'm just using this button here to advance. There's page 3, here's page 4, and this is where we get to some of those widgets that I put on there. So here's one that I put in, if you remember, and I'm going to go View, Enter Full Screen in iBooks so you can see this a little better. But this is the one that I made that was a gallery image. So we've got one image, and then you click, and another image. So imagine having even more than that, having like 10 or 12 or 15 different images all embedded right there into one half of the page. It's really nice. And then we have the interactive widget here. Remember this? So if you click on one of the labels, it zooms in, you get to see it better, and you still can see the view. Now if you remember, I wasn't totally confident that it would zoom in and remember the view that I chose, but it did. Now I just clicked to back up again, and I can click on grains, and it zooms in, and it remembered all of that. So that looks great. I'm going to move on to my next screen. You can see here's the sidebar widget with the scrolling text. It's working great. This one, if you remember, is a clickable item where you can click and a pop-up appears. It's working well. Which of these is a fruit? Is it lettuce? Check my answer. Nope, that's wrong. I can try again. Grapes? It's right. So what a great way for students or anyone, any reader, to be able to test what they're learning or what they're reading and to see if they understand. I'm going to advance to the last page. This is my clump of bananas, and remember I set it to auto rotate, but I can also click and drag to get a good view of this. Now this may not be the best example, but let's say you have a 3D image of a human heart, or a 3D image of how proteins are made up, and you or the students could click and drag to really get an understanding and a view of what that looks like in real life. What a useful little widget that would work in iBooks on the computer or iBooks on the iPad. So I'm going to exit out just by tapping Escape. So I'm going to get out of iBooks. Remember, I was just previewing that in iBooks. I'm back now in iBooks Author, and I want you to see when you're done with your book, you just need to click Publish. And this brings up some information about publishing to the iBooks store. Now my understanding is that I can publish this book, and if I'm not charging money for it, it's completely free. It will be in the iBooks store, and anyone would be able to download my book and I would be able to see, I'm sure, how many downloads I have and all that kind of stuff. But what a great way to get out information for your students, or in a business. You could publish a book of instructions or whatever it might be, or publish information for the public to see. So if you want to learn more about that, you can click this link here to learn more about publishing to the iBooks store. You can also just click continue, and it goes through the steps of what you'll need to do in order to publish to the iBooks store. So I'm going to actually back out of that. I'm not ready to publish this work of art yet. But back here in iBooks Author, there is another option. If you don't want to publish to the Apple iBooks store quite yet, you can go up to File, Export, and click that. And then you can choose, instead of iBooks, maybe I'll just save this as a PDF. And I want better quality, maybe not best quality, just because it might be too big. You could also publish just as plain text, but I'm going to go with this, PDF, better quality. There are some security options if you want, like password protect, and then just click next. I'm going to title this, and I'm going to save this one just to my desktop, just to make it real easy to find. I click export. Takes a little while, but now I should have on my desktop, there it is, a book that I have created. This is a PDF, and so the nice thing about PDFs is they should be usable on just about any e-reader. I know there are some that don't really use PDF format very much, or very well, but you can see it's all there, but the widgets don't function because this is a PDF and not an interactive ebook. Those widgets don't function. At least you can see them, but they are not interactive. But that is another great option, especially while you're working on perfecting the book for the iBooks store. So one other word about this iBooks option here, and remember I got this by going to File, Export, and choosing iBooks. If you do choose this option, you should be able to save it to your desktop as an iBook without publishing it to the iBooks store. So it won't be public for anyone to be able to get to, but at least you could open it up and it's a book right there. It's a book in your iBooks, and you could also send that to other people. You could send that to your students, and so it is possible to make an iBook and share it with people without making it publicly available in the iBooks store. So that's iBooks Author in a nutshell. I hope that you found that useful. You'll be able to jump in and start writing books or articles or interactive activities and be able to publish those for use on your other devices or for your students or for the public. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos about technology for teachers and students.